Welcome to our event, Getting the Most Out of AI for School, presented by the AI Agency. Committee. I'm going to go back, Semblin, our dean, to introduce our event today. You just look at us. Just look at us.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us for this event. For a few people here in person and folks in Zoom, hello into Zoom world. Today we are going to put on this workshop, as Sophia mentioned, getting the most out of AI for school. So this is part of workshops that we've been doing for about a year now, focused around AI and how AI is affecting our work, how it's affecting teaching and learning, and all the various different components that go along with that. So I'm really thankful for having two amazing faculty members here today that are going to lead this discussion. They'll have a chance to introduce themselves, but just really quickly, Giorgio Lagna is a biology instructor here at Foothill College, and Chesa Caparas is actually an English and ethnic studies instructor at Anza. So we have tag team across the district here putting this on. I probably mentioned, this slide. I'm the division dean of STEM. My name is Zach, and part of this, where it's coming out of, is from our AI learning community that we've developed over the past couple of years. We typically meet twice per month on Zoom, and this is just a shared space for everyone to come together across the campus to talk about AI-related topics. That includes anybody, students, employees, faculty, staff, administrators. We have people from other colleges. We have people from the community that come. So if any of you in the space are interested in joining this forum, if you will, you can email me at my email address, which is located on the screen that you see right now. And it's really just a space for everyone to talk about such things. So a big thank you also to Sophia for helping to organize this event, and Jordan as well for coordinating the Zoom and the food and the flyers. And what else is on here? So we do have one more workshop that's coming up. Real quickly, I want to make sure we all see it. The next workshop is going to be on November 6th. That's a Thursday from 12 to 1:15. And Chesa is going to lead that, More Human Than AI, talking about the ethical parts of AI, right? How do we use it ethically, and other topics that she'll present. So I hope that you'll look out for that one as well, coming up in about a month. And we will continue with more workshops throughout the rest of the academic year, all focused around AI. Anything I forget?
No, that's all good.
Right. We'll let these two take it away. Thank you very much.
Well, I'll just make a quick note on Zoom. Yeah, thanks, Zach. So for those on Zoom, we're gonna hold questions, or we're gonna hold answering questions until the end of our session. But if you have any questions or want to make comments, feel free to use the chat. We'd like to encourage that to be an interactive space. Just know that we're not going to address questions until the end. And then for people in the room, please also feel free to ask questions. But again, we'll have a Q&A period towards the end. So that I'll hand it over to Giorgio and Chesa.
So just a quick agenda. We'll start with defining AI tools, because everybody's talking about AI, but we're not all talking about the same thing. So defining AI tools, then I would like to start, especially since a lot of students are here and we're thinking about how to use AI tools for classwork. I have to talk about academic integrity, and then since I do teach English, I'm going to look at how you can use AI to help you in a writing class, and then Giorgio will talk about how to use it in a science class. All right. So which AI are we talking about? AI is embedded in many digital tools. Before ChatGPT, you were already using AI if you were doing Google searches or using Google Maps to get places. But for this presentation, we'll be looking specifically at large language models. So that means stuff like ChatGPT, Google Gemini, and all of those. So those are, considered generative AI. And I also, especially for the students in the room, feel like we should make an important note about AI agents. I mean, AI is developing so rapidly, and the big question, I would say right now, is to what extent AI agents are impacting education. And for those of you who don't know what I mean by that, we're talking about browser-based agentic AI tools that can like do things for you and act on your behalf, meaning that they could like take control of your browser or like, you know, look at what's happening on your screen and then make decisions, go to websites, buy, you know, plane tickets for you, those kinds of things. Some students might use them to log into Canvas and do their homework for them. So the real philosophical question is, what does this mean for how students and teachers can complete their work? Because I know a lot of students also have feelings about teachers using AI for grading or for creating course content. Of course, there are even bigger issues like data privacy. If you're giving it access to your credentials to log into your email, what does that say about the kinds of information you're allowing it to access? And also, what does it say about digital divides? That's something I'm going to cover in the next workshop on the ethics. Right? Some people know how to use these tools better than others, which means some people can take better advantage of them than others, and that creates this bigger divide between the haves and the have-nots. Okay, look at how much money Sam Altman has and how much money we have. Okay, so think about that as digital divide. So in my understanding, and I'm just speaking for myself, I'm not speaking on behalf of the district, but as a faculty person, in my opinion, using AI agents seems to fall under the district's definition of academic dishonesty because you're using another tool to obtain credit for academic work. That's not, you know, we'll take questions at the end. Again, that's like kind of how I interpret it. That's how I would want, you know, I were to tell my students, like AI agents, I don't consider you doing the work if you're using an agent to log into Canvas and complete the work. Okay. All right. So if you are someone who's considering using AI for any classwork, first thing you should ask yourself to make sure that everything's above board, what is your instructor's AI policy, right? And if you are instructors, I know we have some faculty, you know, in the room, in the Zoom, ask yourself, what is my AI policy? Do I have a policy? How do I feel about the ways that students have been using it? Right? And then if you don't know, even with your student or a faculty, Foothill, Anza, and the district do have policies defining academic integrity and academic dishonesty. Okay. So that's all the business stuff I want to get out of the way. Like, just kind of protect yourself, make sure that you're doing everything above board. Now let's talk about how you can actually use it if it's allowed, right? Like I said, I'm going to cover AI in the writing class. And so if AI is allowed in a class, it's important to think about their different points at which these tools can actually help. Yes, the sort of knee-jerk reaction is like, let me copy and paste this assignment, put it into ChatGPT, and then copy and paste the output and put it back into Canvas. Okay, that's honestly like, and my students do that sometimes, and it doesn't make me mad because you violated the AI policy. It makes me mad because you were so bad at prompting, right? Like, you could use these tools better. So it's really important that we think about the different, when you have an assignment or any kind of task that you have to do, how to break it down into different steps, okay? And so for, let's say, a writing class, there are different points of an assignment where an AI tool can help you. So think about like comprehension. If you need help understanding a specific reading or a concept, you can use the tool just to help you with the comprehension. If you need help finding additional sources to better understand a concept, then the tool can help you with research. If you need help generating ideas for an assignment, right, then the tools can help you with brainstorming. And if you need help structuring, organizing, and or developing your ideas, you can ask it to help you with drafting. And then if, let's say that you were like, no, I want to do all the work myself and I'm going to write it all myself, but I just want to make sure like my grammar sounds good, that it's like structured, my thesis is clear. If you just need help polishing your writing, you can also use it for that. So knowing how to break down any kind of assignment or job into the smaller steps will really help you, not just, you know, with not, you know, cheating, quote unquote, or, you know, help you with maintaining academic integrity. It'll also help you because as the tools get better at doing stuff, you really do need to know how to define the different tasks that you're asking it to do. And that requires bigger skill that I always love teaching. It's part of critical thinking. It's called metacognition. And metacognition, and so there's like 4 attendees here, and then some people on the Zoom. I was like, let's show of hands, like who's heard of it? But if you haven't heard it, Hopefully y'all know what metacognition is, but if you don't, it's really just a fancy word for thinking about thinking, right? Which unfortunately, those skills are kind of slipping in this like post-social media age, right? We don't always think about why do I think that, or where did I get that idea, or why do I believe this about the world, right? But that's metacognition, and that's a super, super important skill that we shouldn't be offloading to these tools, right? We always want to ask ourselves, like, why do I think this? Where did I hear that piece of information that made me believe this about, you know, how the world works? So, you know, going back to, the last slide, just real quick, you know, breaking it down into these different tasks is really important for metacognition. And then now you can see the next one. Because not only will it help your instructor know where you need support versus what skills you already have, but it also helps you know your own strengths or areas that need improvement. Right? So if you copy and paste an assignment into ChatGPT and then just copy and paste the output back into the assignment, you don't really understand all the different steps that it takes to actually do the work, right? To actually understand all the readings, to actually put your thoughts, you know, in order, to actually like, you know, go deeper in your analysis for quotes, you know, to polish your writing, all of those things. So it's important to know which steps you might need help with, so that you can then articulate that to your instructor, right? I have students who often tell me like, you know, I really love to write stuff on my own, but then I need AI to just sort of check if my grammar is okay, or if my vocabulary sounds good, or if like, you know, the paragraphs are in the right order to make that, help it make sense. So again, all of this is just to help you better understand how your own brain works and how your own like writing process works. So just again, like a quick note, if you're thinking about using these tools and kind of thinking about when I use these tools, am I engaging in academic dishonesty? Just ask yourself, like, am I violating the instructor's AI policy? And hopefully your instructor has a policy that you can check it against. Some instructors are like, you can use it for brainstorming, you can use it for research, but I want all the writing to come from you, right? And some instructors are like, I want you to brainstorm, I want you to draft, but it's okay if it polishes your essay. So just make sure that you're following the policy in the class. And whenever you use it, make sure you properly cite it, right? If you're using it and don't give attribution to it, then that's considered academic dishonesty. If you cite it, then that's academic integrity. And again, it's all part of that metacognition. Like, where did this idea come from? Like, where did these words come from? Make sure you attribute it to a tool that you used for it. So now I'm sure y'all are like, great, this is all good stuff, but how do I actually use it for class? Okay, so I'm gonna show you a sample tool, and I believe that, you know, the California community colleges have recently entered into an agreement, a partnership with Google for Education. So students will be getting access, or I know some students already, most students already have access to these tools, but they're gonna be further integrated into the California community college system. One of the Google tools, if you haven't heard of it, it's called Notebook LM. And I personally like it because I think it's a good study tool. It'll help you generate quizzes, you can generate mind maps and podcasts. But more importantly, as you're interacting with it, it helps activate that metacognition, right? Because you can understand your learning style. And I'm gonna show you my Notebook LM real quick. So full disclosure, I currently am a student as well, and I sometimes use AI, and I was taking a class called AI Enhanced Findability. If that title confuses you, then you're in the right place. It's like pretty confusing to me as well, which is why I took the class, because it sounds really interesting. How do you do it? And so I had a lot of really complicated readings that I could read for myself, but I also wanted to like help quiz myself and better understand them. So the way Notebook LM works is You can add sources. So let's say you have a few readings for class, you upload them, and basically that creates like a knowledge base for this notebook. So if you don't know how large language models work, they're basically just prediction machines, right? They're not grounded in truth or fact. They just make predictions about the next likely word based on all the words that it's read so far or processed so far. So what's nice about Notebook LM is if you give it a bunch of articles or texts that you have to read, you're helping to form its knowledge base. You're helping it to make better predictions because it's reading all of the texts that you want it to reference, right? And so I would give it some texts, and then what it does is it does give you a summary. What I like about it is it doesn't give you all the answers, right? It's not just like, here's everything you need to know about this, blah, 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 because the problem with a lot of folks using large language models is they tend to over rely on them and think that it's all true, right? Everything that it gives me is like fact, and I don't need to read the article because now I have this like nice little summary. That's not true, right? Because these are prediction machines. They just give you what's likely, not what's actually true. So what I like about this is it'll kind of highlight some key terms, but I also love that you can get different forms of like summary or like digests of the material. So let's say you learn better through auditory processing. Like you love listening to podcasts, and that is like how you process information. You can get an audio overview. Oh, I'm going to do it. For you. That kind of summarizes the sources that you've given it, and you can hear two people having a conversation about it. So again, if you're a better auditory processor, like if that's easier to you than reading, then it's a good it's a good tool. It'll also create mind maps, right? So if you want to try and map the sort of hierarchy of ideas, you can look at a mind map. So like here, if you like things sort of organized graphically, linearly, you like to see how ideas are connected, how they flow, it can do that for you. So you can give it a bunch of texts and it'll sort of make outlines for how the different, again, it's not giving you all the answers, it's giving you tools to better understand the material. And then I think one other thing, and then what's also nice is you can quiz yourself. It'll create your questions for you, and it'll create flashcards. So, like I had to maybe look at stuff on ecologies because of the taxonomies and how to organize information to find it better. So it'll, I created these flashcards about like, what is an ontology, right? Not all of them are helpful, and what's nice is you can also say this question like wasn't really helpful in terms of understanding the material, so you can also rate it. Okay, so that is one tool that you can use if you want help with it. Okay. And then I think the other one's just on the general slide. Okay, the last thing I want to share is just like if you're going to use. Like I mentioned earlier, that if I got like sort of frustrated when like my computer would like turn in sort of like AI slop, like really bad at nothing. So I also like to help them understand like, what are the basics of a good prompt, right? So remember, like LLMs are like they're pattern matching machines. So one of the ways to get better output is to give it a persona, right? If you say, you are a helpful AI assistant, or you are a business major wanting to sell, X, Y, or Z product, that starts to put some constraints on the model so that the output is more relevant to the context that you're trying to generate something in. Okay. You can also give it necessary context. Like for example, when I showed you LM, it had a lot of different, all those readings, right? That was context. That's basically context for the model that helps it then constrain its output based on the stuff that you've given it. So providing that sort of context, like I'm taking a class, like, composition and reading, we have to read this book that's about blah, blah, blah. That's good context, because again, because what constraints makes the output more relevant to your you can tell them their desired output, right? Say, I want this I want your output to be in, bullet point, or I want you to give me reasonings for all of the different, points that you made. You can get it really like that. Another thing that I recommend, especially to my writing students, is always ask for multiple versions. Because that is where you still get you get to keep your critical thinking skills, right? If you get more than one version, what I ask my students to do is then look at it and say, which parts of each version do you like? Which parts do you not like? Which ones feel more like you as a writer? Which ones are kind of like more aligned with your authentic voice? Maybe none of them are. But I think it's always really important to do that comparison work because that keeps your brain fresh. It keeps you thinking critically and not just taking the output for granted. And it helps you kind of hone in on what is your authentic voice. Also, ask it to provide citations to real sources. The models are getting a lot better, but they will actually they don't hallucinate as much. Like they will provide sources that you can actually click on the links to, like the articles or the archive papers or whatever. And then lastly is give it time to think, because that will also help prevent hallucinations, right? If you've interacted with LLM, with like ChatGPT, you know that its goal is just to please you, right? It's like, oh, I'm so sorry, I didn't give you what you wanted. Please forgive me, let me try again. But if you tell it like, it's okay if you don't know, it's okay for you to take your time, it's okay for you to ask me questions if what I'm asking you isn't clear, then you'll get even better results. And you'll also remember that this process is iterative, right? It can make mistakes and it will remember that it can make mistakes. It's not going to sound like that mediocre person who thinks they know everything, right? It's going to be like, oh, actually, I don't know this. So let me ask you a question to make sure I understand properly. Okay. And then last tip, after prompting, always remember to verify the output. Okay, don't just like copy paste. Last thing I want to share is just a sample prompt. So I kind of gave you like the sort of the nuts and bolts, but here's like an actual prompt that I have my students put in as they're writing an essay. My class is all about AI literacy. And so I have them kind of do like a revision / expansion of their own writing using an LLM. So this is the prompt that I say that they should sort of add their own writing into it, but then use this as a template. So it starts off, you are a helpful AI assistant trained as an academic researcher. So already the model is primed to think, all right, academic research, that's the mode I'm working in. Then I say, I will share a paragraph of my own writing. Please improve my writing to make it more academic and add 3 recommendations for additional academic references to help me support my ideas. Provide 2 different versions of the revised paragraph. Do not include false references or references that do not exist. Include citations to the references within the text. If you don't know how to respond, ask me for clarification about the topic. And then I tell the students for additional context, here are 3 quotes from the book that we're reading in class, which is called Unmasking AI. Right? So remember, like part of a good prompt is giving it context. So if I say, these are some quotes that are informing how I'm thinking about this topic, then that'll also help sort of adjust or, make the model provide something that's more relevant to the ways that you're thinking. And then I say, copy and paste your original paragraph and then put all of that into the prompt box. Okay. And then of course, they're not done because after it comes out, then they have to verify the output and then they have to reflect on the process. But I just want to give you that as a template. So, okay. Anyway, well now that's it for my writing class. I'm going to pass it over to Giorgio, who will talk about his science class.
Right, I'm going to switch to using my screen here so that I can show you things I do. Let's see. All right, so as you've heard, Chesa already introduced beautifully a lot of practical applications of notebook LM and in general other large language models. So what I can try to do here is slightly move up a little bit and look at the general panorama of what type of skills does a student in a STEM field or any field really need to succeed in the work environment, considering how AI permeates all our life. So let's start considering that it's not just important to comply to what school and society expects us to do in relation to AI. So we have heard that being ethical in using it is important for you and it's important for your honesty. But there is something to be said about being AI competent. In other words, being ready for a world in which you must know something about AI to be successful, right? So my goal would be to inspire you to think of ways in which you can use AI to think, not just finish your homework, right? So as a partner in your studies. And so, as you heard, it's important to stay honest with AI, but let's pivot to how to get smart with it, how to bring up your game. So your objective in general, as Chesa mentioned, shouldn't be to do less work, right? Because that's going to penalize you in the long term. The objective is learning more deeply than people who just copy-paste answers, because then in a competitive marketplace, you can be the person that gets hired and not somebody whose skills are at the level of ChatGPT. If all you can offer is what ChatGPT can offer for 1/10 of your salary, then who would hire you, right? So keep that part in mind. We're not trying to save work. We're trying to work better. So, as I just said, because if you only do what AI can do, employers will replace you with AI. All right. So, following up on Chesa's beautiful representation of two alternative ways to use AI, I'm going to talk about two kinds of AI users. One is the homework completer, right? Somebody who uses AI to escape thinking. And that's essentially just robotify yourself, let a robot do your work. The other type of AI user is the AI learner. And that is somebody who uses AI to sharpen your thinking, right? So it collaborates with AI to become a better learner and a better educated scientist, for example. So why does this matter for STEM careers, but really for all of them? Because there is sort of a pyramid of skill levels that can be drawn. And sadly, most people use AI as automation. You know, automate something for me. I need to finish this essay, just do it for me. Or I need to read this table, do it for me. Or I need to read this paper, summarize it for me. That's automation. And that's skill level 1. Very easy to do, right? Some users have moved on to assistants. They can use AI to assist them in doing something. For example, assist them in collecting data or collecting papers to then write an article on it. So as research tools, as assistants, just as you would hire a person to assist you in doing your work, right? Not do it for you, but helping you in doing it. But there is the third level. That's where I like most of my students to be, which is amplification. Your AI becomes like a loudspeaker. It makes your production so much better, 10 times better than what you would do by yourself. And so at that point, you're not producing AI level stuff. You're producing your work, but just so much better and more impressive. All right, so how do we get there? There are several ways, and I'm going to take you through a few prompts that I designed for you. There is a QR code there that you can scan, and you can get to a Google Doc where I've listed those prompts so that you can just copy and paste them and customize them to your own purpose. This prompt number 1 is, the aim is to become your study co-pilot. So it should allow you to personalize and train your AI to be your coach by reflecting first on the type of learner that you are. When you first interact with ChatGPT, ChatGPT doesn't know you. You are a complete stranger. So the type of answers that ChatGPT will give you, or any other LLM, at that point, are generalized. They could be for anyone. There's nothing special about their answers. That's why they sound so bland, because they have nothing to do with you, right? And it's a safe assumption for ChatGPT not to assume anything about you, just be safe. They don't want to offend you in any way, right? It's just bland answer. But that's not what you want. You want your LLM to deeply understand you, to give you things that are absolutely right for you, not for anyone else, right? And so there are a couple of ways to do that. One is if you're already a heavy ChatGPT user. By the way, these are, I'm going to talk about ChatGPT mostly, but this can be expanded to any LLM. You all have equivalent features. Well, one of the features ChatGPT has is memory and profile. I'm going to show that to you. In the case that in which you are already a heavy user, there is a relatively easy way to let ChatGPT know about that information. So these are the AI prompts that you can scroll, and I'm talking about this first one, onboarding study copilot. So it's a relatively short prompt that you can copy and paste. Now, what does that prompt do? It looks at whether you already are an experienced user. In the case, if you want to find out what ChatGPT knows about you, you can go to your account at the bottom left here, and then personalization. And notice that if you scroll down, there is something called memory here. You can click on it and see all ChatGPT knows about you. Okay. Actually, I curated this. I eliminated a lot of stuff. It was much longer before. But you have control of this. You can delete what you don't want ChatGPT to know about you, or you can even ask ChatGPT to put in your memory this thing about me that I always want you to remember whenever you do something for me, right? So that's important. You might already have a lot of information there that you don't know, so look it up. But if you're new to ChatGPT, relatively new, well then that prompt will allow you, will instruct ChatGPT to interview you, to ask you questions so that ChatGPT can find out how you learn, what type of learner you are. Notice that this doesn't mean your learning style. That's a myth. Please don't say that I'm a visual learner, auditory learner. That's not true. None of that is true. We are all similar. We are all omni-learners, right? Mostly visual, because large part of our brain is involved in vision, but we all learn to become readers, right? And we all become kind of good at listening to lectures, like you're doing right now, so the auditory part. So that's all about, everybody needs to master those things. But the point is that what type of learner are you? Are you a procrastinator? Are you a crammer? Are you somebody who likes to ask a lot of questions? Are you somebody that likes to have a vision of where we're going, step by step? The gamut is infinite almost. And so that's what you want ChatGPT to know about you. How do you learn best? How do you excel? So you can get it to interview you. You can get to tell it your goals, what you want to achieve through your studying, what you struggle with, and most importantly, but we'll see that later, your schedule. How much time do you have to learn this, and so on. And so that's something that you can do. I'll let you play with that. In the interest of time, we're going to move on, and this is very personal, so I'm not going to ask you what did ChatGPT get from this. But I strongly encourage you to don't do anything on ChatGPT unless you know that it knows you. Okay. All right. So moving on to another prompt, also found on that worksheet that I shared earlier. This allows you to turn AI into your Socratic tutor. What does that mean? So a tutor, as you probably know, is somebody that if you come from a wealthy family, you you are able to afford. And that's very often the secret of success of many people, frankly. They might not learn a lot in class, but then they go to their personal tutor and the tutor explains things to them, right? And that's how they succeed. That requires wealth, requires that the family is geared toward education and invests in that. All kind of things that are not necessarily true of everyone. But that's where AI can be a democratizing force. It's cheap enough, or even free, for everyone to have essentially some sort of personal Socratic tutor. And by Socratic, I mean in the style of Socrates, who's somebody who tried to teach by asking questions rather than telling people what he thought. So how would you use this prompt, which is briefly summarized here, but it's actually more extensive. And again, you can copy and paste it. So I would use it when you want to debug your own misconceptions, when you want to check that you are actually understanding that concept and you don't have baggage that might stop you from learning more deeply. You can also stress test understanding. Ask ChatGPT once it has gone through this prompt. Well, check if I really understand this. Challenge me, right? And make fuzzy topics click. So in other words, really check your understanding by a one-to-one interaction, back and forth. So this prompt allows you to tell the AI what you want to learn and what's unclear. The cool thing about talking to AI is that you don't need to be bashful or ashamed. It's not another person. It doesn't have an opinion about you. Be honest. Say, this makes no sense. Try it again, and again, and again, 10 times. A tutor might actually get upset and leave. AI won't. It will stand there and keep trying. So take advantage of that. Infinite patience, right? So don't hide your confusion. Don't pretend you understand. The LLM is there to make you understand if you prompt it properly. And so through this prompt, you can ask the AI to probe your understanding and to keep questioning you until you fix your own mistakes, ideally aloud. That's where I would recommend you to use the voice feature of ChatGPT that is free, and you can click it at the bottom right. There is a little speaker icon or microphone icon. And so you actually get to hear ChatGPT's voice that you can pick whatever voice you like, and you answer back. And that's great. It's even better than an oral exam. It really gives you a lot of practice in talking to somebody about a subject that you're trying to learn. Much better than typing, frankly. So what's the key here? The key is optimization. You want to receive enough challenge to learn efficiently. Not too little challenge that you are essentially wasting time. If you do the copy-paste that Chesa was talking about, you're wasting your time. What are you doing in school? Find another job. You don't need to be in college if all you're doing is copy-paste. You're just wasting time. And if you want to get a job in the future, you will have to relearn this the hard way. So stop wasting time. And don't ask AI to do it so easy that you're not really learning. So you want a desirable level of challenge that is hard, but not too hard that you just give up. Right? So that sweet spot of AI challenging you, but at the same time not driving you mad. Okay? So you'll notice there, this prompt doesn't ask for answers. You're not asking the AI to give you answer. It rather builds reasoning skills. And back to how I started this presentation, the reasoning skill is the single most valuable human differentiator in a world full of AI, right? What would make the difference between you and another person is that you are a thinker versus somebody else that is just a copier. All right. Yes, as I mentioned, I would try this in voice mode because speaking your answer aloud makes the learning stick better. All right, so I'm going to give you a little bit of time to try it, and I would like to know how that's going. So please feel free to share in the chat how this live drill is going for you. You can paste the prompt into ChatGPT. Name one idea that you're a little bit fuzzy about. It could be about your recent work, and I'll start the timer in a minute. You have about 4 minutes to play this. If you can, answer out loud. If not, type for this effort here. And generally the prompt will try to end with a 2-3 sentence teach back, where after you've learned, you try to teach this back to the AI. So let's give it a try. I'll be quiet for a little bit, and please share in the prompt, in the chat, anything that you're learning. For example, what did AI catch that you missed?
Giorgio, are you referring, they should go back to that Google Doc you showed?
Yes.
Do you want to go back to that QR code? I think I captured the Google Doc and put it in the chat for people.
Yeah, we'll share the link. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
And can I just ask, because if I have this question, maybe other people will too. Are you saying literally copy one of these prompts like in this box? And then am I filling in some of the blanks?
Oh yeah, good question. So there are some blanks in brackets, they are highlighted in red, where you can customize it. If you don't, it's okay. ChatGPT at some point will ask you, well, what do you want to know about? But if you want to make it more efficient, you can actually substitute whatever is in the brackets with what you care about.
But the rest I can just copy.
Yeah, the copy paste,
exactly.
yeah.
Oh,
Of course, you're free to edit it. I just try to make this simple so that there's no barrier to entry. But yes, feel free to modify it if you like.
And we'll assume everybody can, we'll assume that people have access to an LLM. So whether it's ChatGPT or
Yes,
Gemini,
it
whatever's
works
your
perfectly
favorite,
with free versions too.
your favorite LLM, if you have it, you can give this a try.
Yeah, another couple of minutes. We are out of time, so I know this time is very limiting. I just wanted to give you a flavor and see if you are already getting something interesting. Feel free to drop any interesting observation there in the chat. But again, this is purpose of this is to, after having taught your AI the way you study, then use it to make you learn as a partner, as a Socratic tutor. All right. So we are going to move on to the third prompt in that same document that is linked through the QR code or the link that Sophia kindly shared on the chat. So this goes back, circles back to what Chesa was talking about before, this metacognitive concept. This is so important. I'm so glad that you brought it up earlier and in quite a bit of detail, because being aware of how you're learning and how deeply you're learning is really the secret for success. You know, the awareness that you own a subject or you are an expert in it eventually. So how do you reach that level? Well, you need to turn AI into your study process coach, not just helping you study now and then, but help you set up yourself as a successful student. I see a lot of my students who have a lot of desire and interest and drive, but unfortunately they have not been taught how to study for a number of reasons. That maybe they have been out of school for a long time, maybe their high school wasn't exactly as good as they hoped, but they come to college without the skills of becoming a great student. Goes back again to this issue that some families have the means to afford a tutor, but not only a tutor, but also a coach that will train the students to become better at organizing their time. There are executive coaches that I keep hearing a lot from other parents. So get your own for free. Right there, a metacognitive coach for, you know, at most $20 a month or for free with free ChatGPT. So how do you do that? Again, there is a coach, or rather there is a prompt there that becomes your metacognitive coach. What will it do for you? Well, first of all, it will interview you. Again, remember, it's all about you, not about AI, right? So AI needs to discover you. So interview you and find an ideal study schedule. You share, when do you have time to study? What are your concerns? When do you work? When do you have family business to attend? So, whatever it is that makes you the person you are, tell ChatGPT in an interview so that it can frame a study schedule that works for you. And then not only that, but ask ChatGPT to help you put it in your calendar. Don't leave it in there. Put it in a calendar so that you can see it either by hand or in your computer calendar, whatever it is. But it needs to become your schedule from there on, right? And that helps. The second step of that would be to organize your knowledge with whatever works for you. Outlines, bullet notes, tidy structure, whatever is the way that you study best, you can have ChatGPT do that for you as your metacognitive coach. The prompt also helps you probe your own metacognition. For example, asking things like, what was least efficient today? What was the thing that we wasted most time on? Or what took the longest for you to learn and why? And by telling that to ChatGPT, it learns from you what you struggle with, and therefore next time, hopefully it will be better at it. It will ask you to rephrase concepts in your own words. And that's super important, not to just memorize a concept or a scientific idea. That really slips out of your brain very quickly. We all forget if it's not really relevant to us. But if you rephrase it, you put it in your own words, you link it to your own personal experiences, then it becomes a much more deeply understood concept, and it doesn't go away as easily often. And finally, improve expression. If you explain something in a certain way, ChatGPT might tell you, that was great, but maybe you could change this word and use this word that's a little more technical and shows a deeper understanding and a better knowledge of this area. So, it can also coach you a little bit in how to express yourself better. And finally, it can set up a daily loop in which, you can come back to that conversation, and it will ask you 3 questions every day on that to keep your memory fresh. We all know that learning doesn't happen by cramming. We require spacing. It's been studied in psychology, spaced learning versus massed learning. Mass learning is what we do when we cram. We try to just go to a lecture, right, for a couple of weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. Then when the exam comes, we study for 2-3 days. That's terrible. That's the worst thing you can think of. Don't ever do that. Never ever. No, seriously, that's so bad. It's so stressful. It makes people really anxious, right? Because at the last moment, now you have to catch up. So don't do that to your heart or your brain, please. Keep yourself healthy. Rather, study regularly with these 3-4 questions a day. And then the day before the exam, go to the bar. Don't study at all. Because you don't learn everything you had to learn. You don't want to stress before the exam. You want to relax before the exam. Not try to jam things in your mind. So, that's, again, how a coach can help you structure the way you study so that you are successful. Okay, moving on. There is another drill, but I don't know, maybe in the interest of time, I'll let you do this on your own. Again, you can copy and paste that third prompt, customize it if you want a little bit, and then I would suggest if you want to try it right now, maybe we can stop for a minute or so, and you can run only the interview step. Let AI interview you. That would be just step number 1 of this process, but it's fast enough to do it. And so that should help you find your best study schedule based on what's in your calendar. And so you can tell AI about your courses, your deadlines, other commitments, hard stops that you need to take, when you need to have this finished, and then let AI suggest your first 3 calendar sessions. So it's there in your calendar, you have an appointment with your personal tutor, don't miss it, and it's there. All right, let's take a little minute. You can copy and paste that prompt number 3 and give it a spin, see what happens for a minute. I'll change this to time is limited, so we will move on, but you now have hopefully already put that in a conversation with ChatGPT, so you know where to go back and finish your interview and hopefully have your metacognitive coach waiting for you. All right, and this is the last bit, the hypothesis coach. This is the fourth and last prompt that I'm going to talk about. And this is perhaps is among all those, all the things that I've talked about today, the one that might be a little more geared toward a STEM student, but not necessarily so really. So the idea is to train yourself to think like a scientist. You want to learn by testing, not just by absorbing. You don't want to be a bucket that gets filled with information. You want to be a fire that burns with curiosity, right? And so, so you want to test your ideas, instead of being told, oh, look, that's wrong. That's not how it works. The way I tell you is how it works, like some professors will do, right? Nobody at Foothill and the Anza, don't worry. But some professors out there might think that way. You know, this is the way you should do it because I told you so. That's not how scientists work. Scientists want to test their thinking, right? And so by using this prompt, which is briefly summarized here, but it's more extensive on the Google sheet, you will ask AI to ask for your hypothesis about how something works, right? For example, I don't know, in anatomy and physiology, you're studying the heart. Well, don't just read from the textbook or from your slides how the heart is supposed to work. Tell me, how do you think it works? Based on what you know until now. You spent all your life so far with the heart. You should know something about it, right? What do you know about it? Tell me, what's your hypothesis about how the heart works? And then the AI will pressure test you in terms of, well, let's check if this hypothesis really holds water. What about this situation? What about that situation? Does it still make sense this way? Or do we need to modify it based on something, right? So it teaches you to learn by asking questions, by formulating hypotheses, and then testing them or having them tested together with a coach. And another important thing is for every new topic, the AI should lead you to connect it to prior knowledge, because it's very easy to just read something and then immediately forget it because it has nothing to sit on inside you. There is no connection to anything in your life, right? But on the contrary, I don't know, if you're talking about the heart and then you say, well, you know, my uncle had a heart attack. I wonder, what is a heart attack? What is happening? And then, you know, you might connect it to what happened to your uncle and why he had to get a stent, let's say, right? What's a stent? So by connecting these things to your personal life, you learn much more deeply and in a much more durable way. Also, AI, through this prompt, can reveal bad assumptions that you have. And those are the worst. Many times we are not aware that we have a bad assumption because we never really say it explicitly. We just assume things are a certain way. You know, there are so many examples of people that have preconceptions about how something works and they never test them because it never comes up. So here AI can challenge you to think, well, how sure are you that that is correct? And so with that, it helps you rewrite your mental model. Everybody has a mental model of reality or science or anything else really, right? We run with that mental model. Well, how good is it? So have AI challenge it. And then most importantly, iterate, right? Everything needs to be done with a test, revise and retest. And by doing that iteratively you're building your knowledge step by step. This is perfect constructivism for those of you who are in a pedagogy business. You know, rather than just absorbing information, you build it yourself by formulating hypotheses and testing them. And that can end each of the cycle can end with a micro retrieval check. So, you know, a few questions to just check that everything still makes sense and connects. So remember that eliminating misconceptions, as it says down here, is the way to faster learning. If you try to build on sandy foundations, the building is going to collapse. You first want to firm your foundations by eliminating all the stuff that you thought you knew, but you didn't really. And then once your foundations are solid, you start building.
2 more minutes.
Yeah, well, so to wrap it up, the goal of this effort here is to make yourself hard to automate. Because if something can automate you, then you are out of a job forever. So how do you make yourself hard to automate? You ask better questions. You train yourself to ask questions. You see patterns across topics. And again, AI can help you with all of this. You challenge assumptions and you reflect consistently. You keep reflecting on your learning and challenging it and deepening it. By the way, it's becoming real soon that your AI sessions could be something that you want to share with your future employer or with your professor. You show your professor how you're working with AI, rather than shying away and hiding it and keeping quiet. You actually say proudly, look, Dr. Chesa, look how beautifully I wrote this paragraph together with my AI, right? We worked together on this. And so that is something that you actually add to your portfolio. Last bit to leave you is this message. Hiring managers don't want humans who type what AI can type. They want people who think with AI and excel that way. All right, I have a little poll here, but I'm going to skip it in the interest of time. This is the final message I want to leave you with. AI can do your homework, or it can do your thinking practice with you. You choose. If you use AI only to get answers, you are replaceable. If you use it to become a better thinker, you become unstoppable. And I'm done with this.
Great. Yeah, so this is the slide of the next event, which we'll also put back up. But let's open it up for questions. And I'll just start with Vita, one of our CS instructors, had a question early on, which I also could relate to. And I think this is Giorgio during your part. And if anybody else has questions on Zoom, please don't hesitate, just start putting in the chat. You know, I think this was when you were talking about training the model, and she said, what if you don't want ChatGPT or equivalents to profile?
Yeah, good point. So there are a couple of options that you can set up in your ChatGPT. One is the issue whether you want to share your chats with ChatGPT for training purposes. That you can turn off. I can show you how to do that if you like. Let me share my screen. To the version of ChatGPT. So settings. This might look a little bit different because it's the Mac version, but it's similar. So you want to go to personalization and memories. I showed you this already. So these are all the saved memories. You can set up reference saved memories as well. Security. No, I know that it's somewhere there is the ability to turn off training. Can't find it here now, but trust me, I can look it up. Maybe it's here, archive chats. Well, I don't find it right now, but you can turn off the ability of ChatGPT to use your information. Let me actually show it here.
So you're saying you could potentially ask all the things, have it ask you and train it, but then if you've already turned off that function, it will beat the model.
Yeah, okay, I found it, I'm sorry. Yes, so here in developer mode, allow you to add unverified connectors and I guess the
Is that
point
only
is
the
that you
big
can want to do two things. One is you can turn off sharing your chat with ChatGPT. But that does not interfere at all with personalization. Personalization is on your device. It stays with you. It's not shared with the OpenAI and whatever they want to do with it. That
Is that
is.
true just for the paid version though? Or
I think I did that for the unpaid region, because I
The free
remember.
I think these are all common, yeah.
Okay.
There is a small difference between paid and unpaid,
Yeah.
really. It's more like the number of chats that you're allowed to have.
Mhm.
But all these basics are common. So, Peter, in short, the memory does not necessarily profile you. It gives ChatGPT the option to treat you as a person rather than a generic user. If you don't want your data to be shared with OpenAI, then turn off sharing in this system. I will dig that out and I'll show it to you while we move on to other things.
Just a quick note, if there's faculty or any FHDA employees, if you're putting any sensitive data, I mean, we have enterprise access to Microsoft Copilot, and that has our enterprise data protections in it, so I would use that.
But I heard that we weren't to do that yet.
To use
Have you
Copilot,
heard that we can actually put private-
PII, oh,
Yeah.
don't put PII in it,
Oh,
but I just mean like anything that could, like, if students haven't consented to putting their work into a model, like I wouldn't students work into it.
In the meantime, I found the control here. It's under data controls. And it's the first option, improve the model for everyone. That means that the results of your chat are shared with OpenAI. I would turn it off, and it is off. So whatever I do with ChatGPT stays personal. Yeah, and again, this is data control is different from personalization where the memory lives. Yeah, good question. Thank you.
questions in the room or?
You showed us the memory box that stores all the chats, the chat chats. So that can get pretty large then, right?
It doesn't actually store all your chats. It stores some information that ChatGPT thinks would be good to know about you. For example, if you say, I'm a biology professor at Foothill College, right? ChatGPT might say, okay, well, this is not trivial. This is something important about this user. I should remember this. Now, you can manipulate that. You can write something in a prompt and say, remember this. And it will store it in the memory. Or you can say explicitly, store this in the memory.
So we can't directly go into the memory and put something. It's
No.
the chat. It's
Yeah,
that
with the
is-
chat you can. You can delete from the memory. If anything got there, but maybe it was somebody else using your ChatGPT and it's not really something that you want in the memory, you can delete it and remove it. So you can curate that memory, yes.
Kind of along the lines of talking with that piece of things. When you're putting, I think you had given an example of where you're putting, this is probably the case of your work too, when you into model, even if it's an article, like you say. And I know there's been all this argument or like controversy about what's and
Fair use.
yeah, and
Yeah.
intellectual property and stuff like
Yeah.
that. How should we as users navigate that? Like, is it okay to be putting articles in there when it's already probably drawing from some massive infinity data? But yeah, how do you pick and choose what's okay and what's not okay?
Well, from my own, I mean, if it's being used for a course, then typically it's like fair use. But I know that, there's open educational resources, it's probably better to use those first. But I know we also have some online ed folks here, maybe some OER folks that. Yeah. Yeah. Because I know it's a big gray area right now, and I think that's also important why you should turn off the training models,
Right.
anything you upload.
'Cause
Same
like
thing
a
there.
student-
If you turn off the sharing,
Right.
what you
right.
upload is not shared with OpenAI.
Well, I'd be curious if any faculty have that into their AI. Like I know a student who was sharing me a really great way that they're learning their physics. So physics is really difficult. So they'll take a PDF free version of that textbook and then upload it and ask it to like, it's doing that Socratic tutoring thing. Is that okay?
Well, I know, okay, and the recent, I can't remember if it was Anthropic, I think it was OpenAI, the lawsuit that ruled that they weren't allowed to use those texts to train because they had acquired them illegally. So if you like, whatever website you find, where you
Right.
download a book
Right,
that you were
exactly.
supposed to pay for, but you
Right.
got it for free,
Then that's.
and you use that for, like fine tuning or whatever, or, studying, then that violates copyright. Like the fair use is like, if it's like an excerpt or a chapter, then that's fair use. But if you're getting the whole book online and you're supposed to pay for it and you didn't.
Yeah.
I mean, I know students gotta like find their workarounds, like if they're working
Textbooks
students.
are $250.
Yeah. I'm just,
Yeah.
One important point
That's
about
what,
this though,
OER.
a very important subject, a lot of people think that if you share something with ChatGPT, the model will learn it and improve. I wish this is not the
That's
case.
not what it does.
No, I mean,
Yeah, that's the cutoff.
billions of dollars have been spent to make that possible. But right now, all the models have been trained months ago.
They've already
Knowledge
been
cutoff.
They're
done.
done. You don't modify those.
So me uploading those videos.
It has no effect on the
Oh,
ChatGPT.
that's
Yeah,
helpful. I did not,
yeah,
that's helpful. to understand.
yeah. I wish it did, right? Because you would
Then
want
it's
to
instant-
customize
Then
it.
it's instant customization.
Yeah. It's done. You just interact with a stored database.
And that's why one of the new tools right now, I think our opening day person talked about it, RAG, retrieval
Yes.
augmented generation, where you can sort of create these like
Right.
sort of external databases of all the knowledge that you want it to have, and then you could say, okay, if it's not in like training the model itself, be like, I want you to access this sort of repository of things as, kind of add it to your context.
That really stepped up
Yeah,
a lot of
That-
AIs
we
because
have the
now
ability
they
to do
can
that.
think, right? They can
Yeah.
reflect on that
Yeah.
and they can connect it to other things.
Yeah.
So yes, when most of my prompts there essentially rely on RAG and the
Yeah.
ability to reflect and think and build memory.
and
which
consult like
analyze it.
external like repositories that are not in the model itself, but are like you pointed it to that.
Mhm.
that sort of said, use this as part of your answer.
By the way, I forgot to mention that in the worksheet that I shared with you at the end, there are a couple of repositories with literally hundreds of examples of prompts, one from Notebook LM and of Gemini, and the other from ChatGPT. These are collected from students in different colleges. So, you can find plenty of examples in there. So just
Yeah,
pay
just to
attention.
check.
Yeah, those two.
Yeah, so for people in the room, we will send this all out, so I know not everybody got the QR code easily. We'll share this, but. Any other last questions?
When we were doing the tutor, I was like, challenge my assumptions about learning styles.
Yeah.
Did you learn anything
Did they
interesting?
challenge it?
Yeah. Well, things talking about, there's debates about, that, yeah.
Like, I mean, yeah. Side conversation. So just wanna encourage people in the, Jordan, do you mind passing that QR code for the exit survey? We have an exit survey. We'd love to just get your all's feedback. And for those who are on Zoom, I did share that in the chat. Please just answer a few questions. And then if you are interested, we do have another event, as we mentioned at the beginning. Chesa will be talking more about the ethical and humanities aspects of AI usage. So please check that out. It will be less of this.
It was hands-on, but more of the sort of philosophical thinking about why we need social emotional literacy as part of AI literacy.
So thank you all so much for joining us on Zoom.
Thanks,
That was
everybody.
useful, and thank you in person. Please get more food and we'll close up the Zoom on this one. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.